welcome back to Up in Smoke. Today's one of those kind of doom and gloom days. We're overcast. I think the leaves are done. It's pretty windy out today. We've had a little bit of rain, which is a big change for us. So where my full-time job has been pretty much sucking up leaves here on this property and some of my rentals, I think we're out of the woods. Being done with leaves means it's now time for winter, right? We're ready for it to come. And so with that comes lighting the boiler, a little bit of prep work. Earlier in this video, you've seen where I've been replacing a little metal on the side of my boiler. A couple years ago, somebody may have or may not have run the lawnmower down the side of the boiler and ripped the metal. I know the insulation's been getting a little wet back there, so I want to get that replaced. Getting everything ready for the boiler, and I suppose right now I could go ahead and light it. But here in northern Illinois, currently it's like mid to high 50s. It's just really not that cold, and it's not getting that cold at night, but it's coming. I know some of you guys a little further north of here already have your boilers lit, you're burning inside, you got a longer season. Some guys just burn it all year long for their hot water. For me, we heat here with 2 forced air furnaces in the house. I've got radiant heat in the garage. In my basement, we don't run it in the basement because when you do, this is a 2x6 framed house. It's got closed cell spray foam insulation, ICF concrete forms in the basement. You cannot run that floor heat low enough to keep the house from being 90 degrees. Here in my shop, we have 100% radiant heat. That's the only thing that we use LP for. That's the only source of heat. And we do the domestic hot water in there. The only thing that runs is my one shop sink in there, and most of the time when you're just washing your hands real quick, you don't run the sink long enough for the hot water to even come on. So for us to light the boiler right now, I've got the door wide open on my shop. I just left my office door open. Like I say, it's mid 50s here today, so there's just no reason to have the heat on. And the same is true for our garage. We like to have a comfortable garage. My wife and my daughter park their cars in there, getting ready for school and all the things. It's great having a heated garage. You can't beat it. But there's kind of no need for it this time of year. The garage already stays 65 degrees in there. So in the forced air furnaces in our house, they have a coil in them, like a heater coil in your car. And the hot water comes from the boiler through a heat exchanger, heats that coil up, and when the furnace kicks on, it blows over that coil and provides heat to the house. The problem we have this time of year, and this is why we don't have the boiler lit right now, when that coil's hot, the hot air in that coil just rises up through your ductwork, and it would be 90 in the house as well, just from the heat rising up through the ducts if the furnace never even kicked on. So we have a bypass on it, and in the beginning of the year, we don't even run the forced air off the boiler or it'd be too hot. You have to wait until it is, in the 20s, low 30s maybe during the day, let alone at night, before we turn the bypass off and run the forced air off the boiler. The hot water, we love having the hot water with the boiler. It comes out like 152 degrees, I think, usually. And that's awesome because doing dishes, taking showers, unlimited hot water, it's pretty awesome. But we really don't light the boiler until we're ready to turn the heat on in the shop and in the garage. So when we are ready to light it, we've got a lot of choices for wood. You know, this stuff here is kiln-dried hickory. I don't think we'll put that in the boiler. Most of what we've got is this oversized, I don't want to say it's junk wood, it's a lot of hardwood in there, a lot of hickory, a lot of oak, things like that. Knotty, gnarly, big splits of stuff. A lot of it's, you know, got mushrooms growing on it and stuff. There's some soft maple and things like that. And I've got a lot of stuff like this, is a tote of just job scraps that I accumulate over the year. When my wife and I were first dating, we used to laugh that, like, she's from a little bit south of here. We are about an hour and a half west of Chicago. And, you know, she would come up here and visit, and I would try to impress her, take her out for fancy dinner. And her favorite pizza, right, in Chicago, we're known for our pizza, among other things, was like Chuck E. Cheese's or Casey's gas station. It just killed me. I was like, do you know, we got Geno's, we got Lou Malnati's, we got all these world famous pizzerias, you know, that make this awesome Chicago style pizza, fancy restaurants downtown. And when we would go to, I took her to this place, Rosebuds, downtown Chicago. I had a friend that was working there, gave us a special table, all these things. And she orders a plain hamburger, nothing on it. No condiments, no seasoning, and she wants it well done. And he told us a story, that's where I'm going with this, about the meat that's saved for well done. He said, of course not them, but there's a saying in the restaurant industry about saving it for well done. So if you've got a piece of meat that is less than desirable or about to expire, they'll save that for the people who eat it well done because it already tastes like a hockey puck and you don't get the full flavor of the meat. So I thought that was funny. The point to that story is I have the same theory with my firewood. I've got stuff like this that I save for the fireplace. I want nice wood for inside, even just sitting in the house. I want stuff that burns well, burns clean, burns hot. And the boiler wood is all the stuff that we'd save for well done. So I've got some other things that I'll be doing with the boiler before we light it. And I'm not a big, like, you know, hey, this big secret thing on the channel, but this is going to be pretty cool. I'm kind of excited for it. I think you guys, especially you guys with wood boilers, and especially ones with older non-gasifier units, will be pretty excited about. One of the things I'm going to do this year, because in my shop here we do have, like I said, just radiant heat in the floor. Any of you who have a boiler knows that that boiler fan runs and tries to keep your temp, you know, within a range. I think mine's shuts off at 170, comes on 140, something like that. And that's more than hot enough to keep the floor in the shop warm. We have an aquastat that's on the line coming in, and it's basically a sensor that clamps to the line, and it can tell if the temperature of that line drops below the bottom end of those settings. So if at night I'm asleep, it's really cold outside, the fire dies down, it may still be going. You may still have a fire, you may still have a coal bed. In fact, in the, I don't know, 8 years that I've been using this boiler, it has never actually gone out to where I had to relight it. Most of the time when you come out, it might be screaming for heat, and it can't get hot enough to get it over that, you know, back up to that 170 where it shuts off, but it might be hovering around 120, which is too low, and the aquastat will tell my boiler that it should burn propane. So I've got an LP tank outside the shop, and when it drops down that low, or when I'm out of town or something and we're not feeding it, usually, you know, my son feeds it. My wife's been known to come out, throw a couple logs in it, or some of the guys that work for me, and we can keep it going. But what I really don't like is at night when that water, I'll come out and maybe for 2 hours before I came out to fill it, that water's at 120 degrees. That's more than enough to keep the shop warm. And even if you flat turn the heat off in the shop, that entire slab, this almost 5,000 square foot slab of concrete, maintains a lot of heat and everything in the shop. It would take, I don't know, 4 or 5 days for that shop to drop down to where you were concerned it might freeze. So the problem I have with it right now is that just about every night in the dead of winter, in the January and February months of the year, that boiler will run off propane for a couple hours every night. So what I think I'm going to do, I don't know if I'm going to remove, I got to do a little research on it, and maybe some of you know, I don't think I'm going to remove the aquastat, because sometimes, especially when I go out of town, you want it on, but I may just shut the propane off so that it can't get propane. And I don't know what the ramifications of that are, but for the way I burn, for the way the boiler runs, nonstop all winter, once we get it going, I'm confident that it will stay more than warm enough to keep the shop warm. And if it doesn't have propane to ask for, it will just use that lower temp water to keep the floor warm, and everything will be fine. The minute you put some more wood in, it'll go back up to the 170 and cut off. So I'm probably going to try that this year, coupled with some of these new improvements that are coming. I'm looking forward to it. So anyways, I'm kind of rambling. I don't think this will be a very long video, but I want to do a lot of boiler videos this winter. I want to get the boiler lit, just not quite ready for it yet. I don't think it's appropriate for the temperatures we have around here now, but it will be soon. Hopefully you guys come along with us then. Thanks for watching.